You guys heard about this? Spencer Oliver said that he's heard a rumor, and he's very close to the AJ team. And the presenter on TalkSport that was with him said they've also heard the same rumor, which is that Anthony Joshua could be fighting Tony Yoka in his next bout. Curious fight this. It would seem like a comeback fight for Anthony Joshua, or although other people could see it as a crossroads match between the two Olympic gold medalists. Both guys, of course, won their Olympic gold medals controversially. Tony Yoka controversially against not only Joe Joyce in the final, but earlier on in that tournament, he had a very contentious, I think it was that tournament, very contentious decision over Filip Hrgović. And I've watched that fight several times, and for me, there's no way Hrgović lost. But yeah, contentious for Tony Yoka winning that gold medal, also contentious for Anthony Joshua. Not so much because of the Camarel fight in the final. I thought that was genuinely close and could have gone either way. But more so for his first bout in the 2012 Olympics against Erislandy Savon, which he blatantly lost. So anyway, that aside, these two guys squaring off is rumored. It could be happening. What do you guys think of Anthony Joshua versus Tony Yoka? Now, we think of Anthony Joshua as being past his best, or at least I do. Washed. But he reached heights in his career and beat opponents in his career far beyond the guys that Tony Yoka has beat. So if some people think Anthony Joshua's career has been, disappointing, I certainly don't. Tony Yoka's would be, more disappointing by a factor of 10. Considering, again, he was an Olympic gold medalist, an accomplished amateur for many, many years. It just hasn't worked for him. His career has never really got off the ground. He suffered a loss, of course, to Martin Bakole. That was his first loss. Then he went on to lose to a guy called Riyad Murray, which was really a terribly disappointing loss. Riyad Murray, for example, fought Jared Anderson and lost damn near every round against Jared Anderson. Riyad Murray's like 5'10" or something. A former cruiserweight. Nothing wrong with being a former cruiserweight. Alexander Usyk, the best heavyweight in the world, is a former cruiserweight, but still, we're talking about levels here, and Riyad Murray was not a top-level cruiserweight, certainly not a top-level heavyweight. Totally beaten out of sight by Jared Anderson, goes in there and defeats Tony Yoka, who was actually before the Anderson fight, I believe. So yeah, what do you guys make of this potential matchup here? Kylie says AJ would stop Yoka. I'm tending to lean in that direction. Paul says, poor AJ, man, bloke is too lost. Yoka, loser, has to retire. AJ surely got him in it. I would think so. I mean, I think AJ needs to retire more than Yoka does, to be honest. Not because AJ at this stage is a worse fighter than Tony Yoka, but because AJ's made the kind of money that Tony Yoka hasn't made. And when you combine that with the fact that, in my opinion, he's washed up, why risk your health by continuing? Do you know what I mean? Whereas Tony Yoka, maybe he needs to continue. Maybe he needs to continue. Olympic gold medalist, never had a world title fight. Which former super heavyweight Olympic gold medalist turned pro and never actually fought for the title? I'm not sure I can think of one. Because Tyrell Biggs was the Olympic super heavyweight gold medalist in '84, and he had a world heavyweight title shot against Mike Tyson. Of course, Lennox Lewis was the Olympic gold medalist in '88, and he became a world champion. The next one after him would have been '92. I think it might have been a Cuban that won the super heavyweight Olympic gold in '92. In '96, it was Klitschko. After that, it was Aldi Harrison, and he had a shot at a heavyweight title against David Haye. Who won the super heavyweight Olympic gold after? In fact, let me get that up. That'd be an interesting thing to look at. Tyrell Biggs in '84. As I said, Lennox Lewis in '88. Roberto Bellardo in '92. Is he a Cuban? Roberto Bellardo? Because the Cubans had some good super heavyweights for a good while. Yeah, Cuban. Okay, so he was a Cuban. Then Vladimir Klitschko in '96. Aldi Harrison in 2000. So Bellardo, of course, I'm going to assume he never turned pro. So we can kind of discount the Cubans that never turned pro, who stayed in Cuba and didn't defect I'm talking about the ones who actually turned pro and didn't win, or didn't challenge at least for the heavyweight title. So Biggs did, Lewis did, obviously, Klitschko did, Harrison did, Alexander Povetkin won it in 2004. He challenged for the heavyweight title, held a version of it. Roberto Camarella, of course, from Italy, he never turned professional. He was the Olympic gold medalist in 2008. Anthony Joshua, obviously, was world champion. Tony Yoka, Bakadir Jalilov. Now, Bakadir Jalilov, we could discount him because he hasn't really got his career going yet. He hasn't suffered a defeat as a professional. So, yeah, I stick by what I said. I can't think of, you'd have to go back further than 1984, obviously. The last time, and I think before 84, there wasn't even the super heavyweight division in the Olympics. So maybe there's never been, other than, let's say, Bakadir Jalilov, so far, a super heavyweight Olympic gold medalist that has never challenged for a heavyweight title if they've turned pro. They all have. Tony Yoka being the only one. That's a shocking fact, right? It shows how disappointing Yoka's career has been. Somebody mentioned Audley Harrison. No, Audley Harrison challenged for the heavyweight title against David Haye. Joel Schumann says, how talented is Yoka? Seems like every time he's stepped up remotely, or every time he's even remotely stepped up in the pros, he's lost. And then there's the kind of PED issue, right? Because Tony Yoka received some kind of ban. You guys remember that? For skipping several PED tests. And after he came back, I think that's when he lost and he started looking really bad, and he's looked bad since. So there are questions there about whether this guy's always been clean. Because why were those several PED tests skipped? And physically, he looks different to me. Prior to that situation, when it was the PED controversy, he looked more thick set, more muscular. Afterwards, he's looked like a giraffe. He's looked skinny. To my eyes anyway. Gorguga says Yoka's never been KO, but Coley and Takam couldn't. What if AJ stops him? Yeah. And that's really owing to his amateur experience, his experience sparring, because Tony Yoka does look vulnerable. He does look fragile, but he manages to tuck up. He manages to hold on and get through it. That's what he did against Martin Bakole,